My brothers and sisters, there comes a time in every person's life when you realize the version of you that got you here cannot take you there. You're holding on to habits, thoughts, and even relationships that served the old you, but they're suffocating the new you that's trying to be born. If you want to experience transformation, real, lasting change, you're going to have to disappear. What got you here won't take you there. Disappear to break the cycle. Most people spend their entire lives circling the same mountain, repeating the same patterns, and wondering why nothing is changing. They think the answer is to do more of what they've always done, to hustle harder, grind longer, and push through with sheer willpower. But the truth is, what brought you to this point in your life is the very thing that's holding you back from the next level. The mindset, habits, relationships, and routines that created your current reality are not equipped to create a greater one. If you want to experience a new level of success, peace, purpose, or impact, you have to be willing to let go of the version of you that got you here. You must be willing to disappear from the familiar in order to break the cycle that keeps you trapped. Disappearing doesn't mean running away from responsibility. It doesn't mean quitting on your dreams. It means intentionally stepping back from the noise, the distractions, and the environments that keep reinforcing the same patterns in your life. It means being bold enough to separate from the people who only know how to affirm the old version of you. There's a danger in staying too long in circles that celebrate your current level because their approval can become a prison. When everyone around you sees you as the person you've always been, they unconsciously pressure you to stay there. Disappearing is not an act of rebellion against them. It is an act of obedience to the higher calling within you. Cycles don't break by accident. They persist because we keep feeding them with the same thoughts, the same conversations, and the same daily decisions. A person who wakes up every day thinking the same thoughts, feeling the same emotions, and doing the same actions will keep reproducing the same results. To break the cycle, you have to interrupt the pattern. You have to disappear from what is familiar so you can create space for what is possible. That means withdrawing into a season where you stop operating on autopilot. It means getting quiet enough to hear what God or your inner wisdom is trying to tell you about your next assignment. It means evaluating every area of your life and asking, is this contributing to my transformation, or is this keeping me tethered to my current level? Most people are afraid to disappear because they fear being forgotten. They're afraid that if they step back, the world will move on without them. But it's not about the world forgetting you. It's about you forgetting the identity that's no longer serving you. You've got to be willing to let the old version of you fade away so the new one can emerge. If you're too busy performing for others, you won't have the time or the energy to transform for yourself. Disappearing allows you to confront the parts of you that you've been avoiding. It forces you to deal with the limiting beliefs, the internal conflicts, and the hidden fears that have been sabotaging your growth. There is nothing comfortable about breaking a cycle. It feels like loss because it is loss. You are losing the comfort of familiarity. You are losing the predictable patterns that have defined your life, but you are also losing the weight that's been holding you down. Every breakthrough begins with a breakdown. The seed has to break apart in the soil before it can sprout. The caterpillar has to dissolve inside the cocoon before it can grow wings. If you're not willing to disappear, you will never experience the beauty of what's waiting for you on the other side. The cycle will continue, not because you are cursed or unlucky, but because you chose comfort over transformation. Transformation requires isolation. Growth happens in the dark, not the spotlight. Too often people assume that the journey to becoming their best self must be loud and visible, that every step forward needs to be celebrated. documented and validated by others. But true transformation is not a performance, and it doesn't happen under the watchful eyes of an audience. It happens in private, in quiet seasons where nobody is clapping for you, and nobody even knows what's going on. Isolation is not punishment, it is preparation. It is in these hidden seasons where your character is forged, your vision is refined, and your capacity is expanded for what's ahead. Just as a seed must be buried beneath the soil before it can sprout, you too must enter into a hidden place if you are serious about growing into the person you were created to be. People resist isolation because they fear stillness. They equate being unseen with being insignificant, but the truth is, the most significant shifts in your life will happen when nobody is watching. In the dark, your roots grow deep. In the silence, your faith is tested and strengthened. If you avoid isolation, you will keep exposing an unfinished version of yourself to the world. And when you step out too early, the pressures and expectations of others will crush the fragile beginnings of your transformation. The dark season protects you as you shed what no longer belongs to your next chapter. It gives you room to confront your flaws without the noise of comparison and without the temptation to perform for approval. The spotlight is seductive because it feeds your ego, but it starves your soul if you have not done the deep work in private. Many people want the fruit of transformation without enduring the process. They want influence before they've developed integrity, platforms before they've cultivated patience, and wealth before they've built wisdom. But skipping the season of isolation means you are not rooted deeply enough to sustain what you're asking for. In isolation, you learn discipline, humility, and endurance. You face yourself in ways that crowds and applause would never allow. You discover the difference between what you want and what you truly need. This is where you unlearn the toxic patterns and replace them with principles that will sustain you when the storms of life come. There's a reason why the greatest transformations in nature require darkness. A baby develops in the hidden place of the womb. A diamond is formed under intense pressure deep within the earth. A butterfly is not built in the open air, but within the confined space of a cocoon. If you can embrace your own cocoon season, you will emerge with wings strong enough to carry you. But if you try to bypass this season and rush into the light too soon, you'll be exposed, fragile, and easily broken. The quiet is where your identity is recalibrated. It's where you stop trying to be who others expect and you begin to align with who you were truly designed to become. When you are in isolation, it may feel like nothing is happening. It may look like stagnation to the outside world. Friends and family might not understand why you are pulling back, why you are not as accessible as before, why you are no longer showing up in places you used to. But that's because they can only see the surface. Transformation is an underground process. The roots go deep before the fruit grows wide. If you can be faithful in the dark, you will be powerful in the light. The work you do in private will determine how far you can go in public. Stop seeking validation from people committed to staying small. One of the greatest traps in life is tying your growth to the approval of those who have no intention of growing themselves. We often look for permission to rise higher from the very people who are most threatened by our elevation. Their comfort zone becomes our ceiling because we fear losing their acceptance. The danger in this is that you begin to edit your potential to fit their limited vision. You start shrinking your dreams, softening your ambition, and suppressing your calling so you won't make them uncomfortable. But if you are serious about transformation, you must break free from the need for validation from those who are content with mediocrity. Validation feels good in the moment, but it can become a drug that keeps you addicted to other people's opinions. The applause you crave today can turn into the criticism you fear tomorrow. People who are committed to staying small will not celebrate your decision to grow. Your discipline will offend their laziness. Your boldness will expose their fears. Your hunger for more will make them question their choice to settle. If you let their discomfort define your decisions, you will abandon your own destiny to protect their fragile sense of security. You have to decide if you want to fit in with the crowd or fulfill the assignment on your life. You cannot do both. There is a cost to breaking away from people who refuse to grow. You may be misunderstood. You may be called arrogant, ungrateful, or even disloyal. But staying small to keep them comfortable is not love, it is self-betrayal. Love tells the truth even when it hurts. Love grows even when others stay stagnant. If you care about them, the best gift you can give is to become all that you were created to be, even if they can't see it right now. Your transformation might inspire them to rise, but you can't wait for them to approve before you move. Sometimes the same people who mock you in private will admire you in secret, but you can't live for that moment. You have to be willing to go alone. Many people think their assignment is to drag others with them into their next level, but that's not how growth works. A butterfly cannot carry caterpillars into the sky. A tree cannot force seeds to grow if they refuse to take root. Your job is not to convince people who have decided they are comfortable where they are. Your job is to answer the call on your own life and trust that those who are ready will find the courage to follow later. Seeking validation from small-minded people will only delay your progress. It will keep you rehearsing your vision for people who lack the capacity to understand it. You have to recognize the difference between counsel and control. Wise counsel can sharpen you and help you avoid pitfalls, but control manipulates you into staying in place. If the people around you can only support you as long as you don't surpass them, that is not real support. Surround yourself with people who can celebrate your wins without feeling like they're losing. Seek out voices that challenge you to grow instead of voices that pacify your fears. Stop looking for applause from those who are not even clapping for themselves. The ones who are too afraid to leave the shore will never understand why you're building a boat. You don't need their permission to set sail. The old you must dissolve before the new you can emerge. So many people want change but refuse to release the version of themselves that is incompatible with the future they desire. They carry old habits, old mindsets, old wounds, and old identities into a new season and wonder why nothing feels different. Transformation is not about adding something new on top of the old. It is about surrendering what no longer serves your purpose, so that what is meant for you can come alive. This process is uncomfortable because it requires you to let go of familiar patterns and embrace uncertainty. You cannot become someone new while clinging to who you used to be. There is a reason why nature teaches us that growth often requires dissolution. A caterpillar does not grow wings by stretching or slowly adding parts. When it enters the cocoon, it completely breaks down into a liquid state. Its old body literally dissolves so its DNA can rebuild it as a butterfly. That is what transformation demands. It is not about tweaking a few behaviors or changing a few routines. It is about allowing the old you, the fears, the ego, the limitations, to dissolve so the true version of you can take shape. Many people resist this process because dissolving feels like dying. They fear losing their identity. Even if that identity has been keeping them stuck for years, dissolution happens when you stop identifying with your past failures and even your past successes. Both can trap you. Failures keep you in cycles of shame and fear, convincing you that you're not capable of more. Successes can lull you into complacency, making you believe you've already arrived when there is still more inside you. The old you is comfortable with the predictable, but the new you is birthed in the unknown. You cannot step into what's next if you keep rehearsing old narratives about who you are and what you deserve. At some point, you have to make peace with the fact that the person you've been is no longer sufficient for where you're going. This is why so many people sabotage their own growth. They try to carry the old self into a new level, but the weight of it pulls them back down. The beliefs and behaviors that got you here are not equipped to take you there. You have to shed them like a snake sheds its skin, like a tree sheds its leaves, like a butterfly sheds the cocoon. It is not an easy process because it requires honesty. You have to be willing to see the ways you've been holding yourself back. You have to confront the parts of you that prefer comfort over calling, fear over faith, control over surrender. And you have to let those parts dissolve so something stronger, wiser, and freer can rise in their place. This is why isolation is often part of transformation. When you are surrounded by people who only know the old you, it's hard to dissolve that identity. They keep pulling you back into roles and patterns you're trying to outgrow. But when you step away and allow yourself space, you give yourself permission to release who you were without interruption. You allow the breakdown so the breakthrough can happen. Dissolving the old self is not about losing who you are at the core. It is about removing the layers that have been hiding your true nature all along. The shell must crack before life can emerge. The old wine skins cannot hold new wine. Your cocoon season feels like death, but produces wings for flight. There is a point in every journey of transformation where nothing makes sense anymore. The old way of living doesn't fit, but the new way hasn't fully formed. You are caught between what was and what is yet to be, and it feels like you are losing everything. This is the cocoon season. It is a sacred and painful space where the familiar is stripped away, and all you can do is trust the process. On the outside, it looks like nothing is happening. To others, it may seem like you've withdrawn, like you've stopped moving forward. But deep within, change is taking place at a level so profound that it cannot be measured by activity or productivity inside the cocoon. The caterpillar's old body literally disintegrates. Its organs, its muscles, its entire structure liquefy. It is no longer what it was, and it is not yet what it will be. If you looked inside, you would see chaos, destruction, and a complete loss of form. That's why your own cocoon season feels like death. The dreams you once carried are being reshaped. The relationships you leaned on may be falling away. The certainty you held about who you are and what you're capable of is being deconstructed. This is not failure. This is the necessary breaking apart of the old so the new can be built. What feels like the end is really the beginning of something greater. The challenge of the cocoon season is that it is invisible to others. People around you may not understand why you've pulled back. They may question your decisions, doubt your potential, or even accuse you of giving up. But they cannot see the work being done in the dark. This is the season where your character is refined. Your faith is tested. Your vision is purified. If you open the cocoon too early, the butterfly dies because its wings have not yet developed the strength to fly. In the same way, if you try to rush this season in your life, you will emerge too soon and collapse under the weight of the future you were meant to carry. The pressure and stillness you feel right now are not punishment. They are preparation. Most people resist the cocoon because they are addicted to movement and visibility. They want to be seen progressing. They want every phase of their growth to be acknowledged and applauded. But true transformation cannot survive constant exposure. There are some breakthroughs that require you to go silent and hidden until the work is complete. A seed does not sprout in the sunlight alone. It germinates in the soil, covered and unseen. A baby is not formed in the open air. It develops in the darkness of the womb. Your cocoon is protecting you as you transition from crawling to flying in the cocoon. You lose what is no longer needed for your next level. You lose the parts of yourself that were only useful for surviving, but are useless for soaring. You lose the need to impress, the need to please, the need to explain yourself to people who do not have the capacity to understand your journey. The death you feel is the death of limitations. The darkness you feel is the incubator for light. The stillness you feel is the building of power. When the process is complete, you will not recognize yourself. The wings that seemed impossible in your crawling days will unfold, and the sky that once felt unreachable will become your new ground when you reappear. Don't return as improved, return as unrecognizable. The purpose of transformation is not to polish up the old version of yourself, or to make minor adjustments to what already exists. True transformation is about complete renewal, a radical shift so profound that even the people who thought they knew you best struggle to reconcile the person you have become with the person you used to be. This is why the process requires isolation and why it often feels so lonely. You are not simply leveling up. You are being remade from the inside out. The habits, beliefs, and even parts of your personality that defined you before no longer fit who you are becoming. When you emerge, you are not just better. You are different. Many people mistake improvement for transformation. They think reading a few books, adopting a couple of positive habits, or changing their environment is enough. But improvement can still leave the core identity untouched. You can improve in skills, but remain insecure in identity. You can improve in discipline, but still carry the same fears. You can improve your image, but still live with the same limitations. Transformation goes deeper. It rewires the way you think, the way you see yourself, and the way you respond to life. When it is real, it changes the way you move through the world so completely that you no longer seek to fit into the spaces that once defined you. This is why you cannot explain your transformation to everyone. There are people who will not recognize the necessity of your disappearance, and they will certainly not understand the magnitude of your return. When you reappear, they will try to pull you back into the old patterns. They will attempt to relate to the version of you that no longer exists. You will hear things like you've changed or you're not the same person anymore, and they will be right. The only mistake would be to take that as criticism instead of confirmation. You were not created to stay the same. You were not designed to crawl your entire life. If the caterpillar remained familiar, it would never become the butterfly. The unrecognizable you is evidence of the process working. Emerging as unrecognizable means your decisions reflect a higher standard. Your conversations have more depth. Your presence carries more weight. The fears that used to paralyze you no longer have a hold. The doubts that used to whisper in your ear are silenced. You are no longer moved by external opinions because your validation comes from a deeper place. This is not arrogance. It is alignment. You are aligned with your purpose, your values, and your true identity. You are no longer pretending to be smaller than you are to make others comfortable. You are no longer rehearsing an old story about lack, limitation, or unworthiness. That story dissolved in the cocoon, and now you are writing a new one. The people who are meant to be part of your next chapter will recognize and honor the new you. They will not try to pull you back, but will rise to meet you at the level you now operate on. And those who cannot accept your transformation were never meant to follow you into this season. You are not obligated to keep proving to them why you had to change. You are not responsible for explaining why you disappeared or why you no longer fit the mold they built for you. Your emergence is not for their comfort, it is for your calling. When you reappear unrecognizable, you give others permission to evolve as well. You become a living example of what is possible when you stop settling for improvement and embrace complete transformation.